Okay, so yeah, so the difficulty with standing is that it tends to you sort of become a statue, yeah? And we want these incredibly lively legs, really. So let's just move side to side, but just make sure we take the foot off the ground. It just needs to come off the ground just an inch or so, or 2 centimeters. So we want the legs to really, to feel really lively, almost like they have a life of their own, yeah? Rather than being your two slaves that do what they are told. So they have a really light, delicate, delightful energy, and they'll surprise you, yeah? So it's more like, it's more like you have the delicate, delightful energy. It's just that your normal legs don't allow it to express. So if we can just lighten them, then they will express that energy that's deep inside you, that's just really wanting to just surface. Yeah, so nowadays, basically the modern malaise is depression. So even people that don't think they're depressed, that's, sort of ostensibly happy and cheerful, they still lack spirit. Yeah? They still lack soul, that sort of shimmer. They're bland and flat and just one-dimensional, really. Capitalists, ego-ridden, yeah. And so, especially nowadays, everything, every aspect of life is designed, and remember Ronnie, the mother of my kid here, she's, one of these sort of new age people that basically just goes to see everyone, every therapist there is, she'll go and visit. It's what the therapists call experiential materialism. That's what people collect now. It's not things, it's experiences. Yeah. And and she went to see this therapist down near the Dead Sea. And he just said to her, look, you're depressed. And it's the last thing she imagined, because she's always cheerful. She's always upbeat and cheerful. But of course, that's her way of dealing with the depression. It's what the therapists call active depression. You just can feel that inside you're just going to fall into this hole. And so you just be extra busy and active in a sort of almost like a neurotic way. So we just need this ability to just settle inside and just find a really light peace, not a heavy, gloomy peace, but just, and so just settling into riding horse. And it's just, it's like coming home, the sort of relief you feel when you open the front door and slip in, and you can just let all the shit of the day just slip off you, yeah? So here you're just coming home, yeah? And there's nowhere else you'd rather be. So it should be a very natural thing. You don't have to force yourself into the Dantian. It should be the natural place you're just begging to return to all the time. It's like base camp. It's where you come to recharge your batteries. So sinking and relaxing, but we don't really want the sinking to be like, you know, when you sink in the wrong way, it's like you feel your legs just sort of filling up with blood and sort of becoming engorged and a bit sort of heavy and thick. That's what we don't really want. Yeah, we want the feeling that the legs could sort of just fly. You could leap around and dance for joy at the drop of a hat. And for that, you just need to be really flexible and fluid with your moods. Yeah. It's like in this weather, you know, every Israeli you meet complains about the heat. And I said, well, look, just start enjoying it. What's the problem? Yeah. But of course, you know, people's feelings are sacred. That's the most solid and unchangeable thing in the world for them. Whereas really, you can just change your mood at a drop of a hat. So I've got a student, you know, and she often say, I'm in a bad mood, you know, when I meet her. So, well, be in a good mood then. Just produce a good mood, yeah. And of course, it's the last thing she can do. She expects me to do that, of course. She expects me to bring her into a good mood. I'm the therapist. I'm the person she's paying to make her feel better. Yeah. Okay, now just moving side to side like we normally do, but like really fluid. So just feel just the line of the legs, the arch of the legs, and just feel the two qualities, the full and the empty. So the fullness is moving in this direction, but the emptiness is moving in this direction. So my body is the fullness and my energy is the emptiness. Yeah. So as I move in this direction, the leg fills with my mass, but this leg fills with energy. This leg compresses with the weight, and this leg expands with the lack of weight. So I need to sort of just have half of my mind on each quality. So half of my mind is with the weight, and another half of my mind is just watching the energy. And just feeling it's just a really beautiful sort of flow, just from one foot to the other. Yeah, so the weight really sort of compresses. It becomes small, like, you know, like a collapsing star or something. Its mass is making it all crunch in, and the other side is just really expanding and opening up. So just feel the mind. There's part of your mind that's sort of just becoming even more serious, and another part of your mind that's just really opening up and just becoming open to change. So here, there's something opening here. Yeah, so I need the weight, I need the mass in order to anchor myself so that I can become energetic. But I don't want the mass to turn me into a statue. So this is why we do exercises like this. So you're changing from full to empty and empty to full all the time. So it doesn't get set or stuck. Yeah, so the fullness is sort of your center. Yeah, so I'm very much this collapsing star with the center here. And then the other side, it's over here, it's in the foot. It's not really of my body. It's like little sparks that are sort of sparking around me. Like the little butterfly, the soul, the psyche. So if I can keep myself under real control and keep my body together, which is what the Danchen does, then my energy, given half a chance, my spirit will flit around. So here there's like a little fairy that's calling me. It's my fairy energy. Like a real lightness, a delicacy, a lightness. And it's very easy to pass that by or to consider it unimportant. Yeah. But of course, you know, when you get into it, it's the most important thing. You just feel the whole leg expanding. It's not just the knee that's letting go and straightening. You're really letting go at the hip joint here and also at the sacroiliac, where the hip bone joins the sacrum. And then just feel the sacrum. So the sacrum it's the place where the full and empty meet. Yeah, so it's really important. And then just try and feel the expansion returning. Yeah. So it's like I expand, but I can't keep expanding out on a line unless I move my feet and travel with it. So the more I expand, at some point it starts returning. So this sense that the hand is beginning to come in whilst the back and the elbow are still going out. Yeah. So this is the feeling of the expanding becoming the return. You know, so the empty becoming full, starting the process of becoming full. So the yin becoming yang. Ooh. And this is really important. So you've got to feel that release across the back. So it's not just the arm. You've got to release the shoulder blade from the spine to get this return. It's like you've got to hug someone that's really big, yeah? Or hug a tree. Yeah? So it's not enough just to open the arms. You've got to really open across the back to get as big a hug as possible. And just feel what that does to the heart. So it's like, ooh, fuck, you know, it's like you sort of really slip into sort of unknown, difficult territory for a moment. So you just open up. You open up. Yeah, so it's actually just really difficult to be open. Yeah, because if you're open, then anything comes in really. So you can really only be open for bursts. Yeah, so just feel how that opening is a real intensification. So the point where it just becomes all spirit and anything can happen. It could go in loads of different directions. So there's no real momentum at that point. Yeah, there's momentum as I move. Yeah, but at that point, I've settled in the leg, and it's that point before I return. Yeah, I want that to be really full and intense, with the feeling that it could just take me anywhere. It's just so happens that it takes me into the other leg. Yeah, and so it's just important just to try and keep the weight back until so as soon as your weight starts being drawn by the spirit sort of dissipates. It gets bored. You go, oh, you can take care of yourself now. I can go away and do something else, yeah? So there's that moment of spirit before you start moving. Then as soon as you start moving, you can feel the spirit just, just sagging. And then it's just all body until the next burst of spirit from the empty foot. Wow. Yeah, so we just want to feel and appreciate that, the body, so by that I just mean anything that's sort of material, anything that's sort of physical, anything that has any sort of lasting duration is actually an impediment to creativity. Yeah. So I make something and my body moves, it settles, but then that becomes an impediment to further creation. It sort of blocks spirit. Spirit will always try and find a different place to manifest than the place where you actually are. And so now the spirit can feel this free thought and thinks, oh, I'll go there. Yeah, so there's, it's got that sort of light, delightful feeling, but it's also, there's like a sadness, yeah, because of this sort of conflict between the material and the spiritual, yeah. So they have to really be in balance. You can't have one without the other. And if you do, then you may as well be dead, because effectively you are. Because life is really the vibration of the material and the spiritual. Yeah? So without that spark of spirit, there's no life in the body. So as I settle into myself, I just have to really have enough experience and enough maturity to realize that spirit will always manifest somewhere else if only I let it. If I get too stuck in my physicality, then that basically blocks the spirit. Something is too solid, too certain. Spirit is really uncertain. It's just as soon as you try and grasp it, it's flitted away, like trying to catch a butterfly. And the chances are, if you catch the butterfly, you're going to damage its wings anyway. And so what's the point? Okay, so let's bring it back. And again, just with that sort of lightness. So even though we're not moving from leg to leg, effectively we are. So there's always that sense of single weightedness, like you're sort of massaging something or kneading something, kneading with a K rather than a double E. Okay, so let's just do a little bit of work on the spine. So So we try not to let the legs become solid, yeah? But also, because we consider the legs to be extensions of the spine, then basically, the most important thing not to let set is the spine. Now, most people, their lumbar spine is almost fused. It's so sort of solid and rigid, yeah? So that's where the self starts in a way, the dantian, yeah? So now let's just moving the arms. So breathing in as you bring the arms up, and then just breathing out as you bring the arms down, and just let it get into the spine. So my spine is extending, so I'm tightening the muscles in my lower back. And now to get the arms down, I want to really make an effort. Imagine they're being held up by levers or something in you, so you really have to pull here to get them down. So you want to use the belly muscles for that. So this is my lower back, just tightening just a little and arching backwards. And then here I'm bowing forwards a bit by tensing my belly muscles. And just letting the head smooth back and forwards. Yeah, so the important thing really is just to lose the head, get into the machine, just get into the real workings of the machine and just let it affect you, let it move you and transform you into this passionate instrument. And so we'd like the spine to really transmit energy, to draw energy in and filter it down into the legs, and to allow energy to just ripple up it into the head and the hands. So the neck tends to get stiff because our heads are so damn heavy, and also the upper back. So there'll normally be a block sort of between the shoulder blades. So just when you bring the arms up, just really tilt back and feel that. So when you get it straightening out here, you'll really feel almost like you're going to explode out of your chest. So it feels very not Tai Chi at that point. Yeah, so Tai Chi, John always used to say that Tai Chi masters are famous for being stiff, for being inflexible, because basically you're just bent all the time, so you forget how to straighten. So they don't have, they've got immense power, but they don't have much of a range of motion. So here we just want as big a range as possible, really. Just feel the energy getting all the way to the forehead, and then it just ripples back down. You can do this sitting down. This is how I do it with my old ladies. They love these things. And what becomes clear from working with old people is that basically, that sort of the health that sort of rejuvenates you, that sort of keeps you a little bit young, it's basically a healthy spine. And then just, so you have to work hard to bring the hands down, or sort of harder than you really do. So we're pretending, remember John saying, in order to succeed at Tai Chi, you just need to become a good actor. You need to be good at pretending. So just really making an effort when you don't need to, you can actually do the movement. So when I bring the hands down, I don't really need to do anything because gravity will pull them down. But I really want to just really feel what would I have to do if my hands were being held up here? And to get the whole body into it, not just the arms. Yeah, so I really have to tighten here and pull my shoulders over. And just registering how it makes you feel. This is really open, you almost gulp. It's so open, and this is just really sort of closing down, but into like an animal that's ready to pounce, ready to explode. So you're just drawing the energy in. And then here it expresses, it ripples up. Oh, and then it ripples down. Yeah, so this is the sort of exercise you can really use to get yourself into that sort of trance state, where you sort of lose the room a little bit, so things blur. Yeah, so we're just feeling the muscles either side of the bone. Yeah, a bit like the muscles here. I've got the bicep, which bends the arm. I've got the tricep, which straightens it. Yeah, so normally one works and the other one relaxes, and then it changes. So what we want is to have like a little bit of tone in both of them all the time. So as one tenses, the other one is almost trying to stop it from moving. So there's a little bit of resistance from your own musculature to the movements that you're trying to produce. So you really are having to work hard, because here my back doesn't want to release. So my belly really has to pull, and then the back slowly releases. And then here the belly doesn't want to release, so the back really has to pull. So you're not just imagining the resistance, you're producing it with your own muscles. And then if you release that constraint, if you release that resistance, you just fly. The energy just bursts, it explodes out of you, because for so long it's being kept with a firm leash. And if you just take it off the leash, then that's when you have the real power. So this is the idea of working slowly. You work slowly so that when you release the constraint that's forcing the slowness, there's real speed, a speed that's unthinkable. You just have to, it's all spirit. So the slowness of Tai Chi should really be an intensification, not a slackening. It's not slow because it's weak and placid. It's not slow because it's nice. It's slow because you're really producing a tension that's slowing it down. See, so it just becomes, the exercise that we normally do, the in out. But it can be any, so it could be up and down. You just want to make sure that the pulling down or pulling in, you're really making an effort. Yeah. You're not just letting gravity do it for you. Yeah, so it's the opposite of normal. So normally we work to bring the arms up and then we just relax to bring the arms down. But here we're really working to bring the arms down and in, and then we just relax that and they'll just float up. So this is the idea. So to start with, we work with gravity, but then we end up working against it in a way. And so it's always the same in Taoism. It starts off one thing and it becomes the opposite. It's like with Tai Chi, you know, people start Tai Chi because they like this idea of softness and roundness and relaxation and yielding, this idea that you're, you know, dealing with the other person by being soft and nice. But then eventually it just becomes the opposite. Yeah. You're actually becoming a real monster inside. I mean, you retain the look of softness. So drawing in. Just feel it in the back and the belly. Okay, now let's just bring it back to riding horse. So again, just with that feeling, it's really organic, yeah? It's not statuesque. Yeah, so, you know, it should be obvious that it's not the screen that's frozen. Sometimes the screen freezes and I can't tell because I'm standing still. So really there should be this sort of, this wriggly shimmer that's obvious, yeah. Okay, now let's just try that breathing one that we used to do, because it's similar really. So just breathing with 3 in-breaths, yeah, so breathing into the belly, and then breathing into the chest, and then here breathing in and pulling the breath up into the head, which you have to use your imagination for, and then breathing out and really pressing down. So again, I breathe into the belly, breathe into the chest, breathe into the head, and then somehow you have to get on top of it to actually pull it down successfully. Yeah. So just imagine, it's really difficult to lift your hands here. So you have to get your body underneath it really. So you have to get underneath the lift. The same way if you're pushing a car, you just get your body into it. You'd have to get down beneath the place where you were touching the car. It's the same thing here. And then here, really have to use a lot of effort to get that out. And then the same thing here. So I have to expand into the effort rather than shrink, and then pulling it down. Up, out, up, and down. Up, out, up, way, down. Yeah. So with each of these ups, you should really feel, imagine if you were really pushing something up, something that's quite heavy, and you are pushing up, you'd really feel it pressing you into the feet. So just really feel that. It's, your feet are becoming big because they're being squashed into the ground. Whee. And then here you're lifted up a little bit. You can imagine, you know, if you were strong enough, your feet would actually come off the ground there. So here, up, out, like you're tearing these curtains open that are really heavy. And then here, just lifting something up above your head. And then here, getting on top of it and pulling it down. Okay, so a couple more, up. And again, just feel the mood of each one. It's a slightly different mind, each center. Yeah, so this is quite almost sort of subterranean. It's really deep inside you. But then here you have to be really ruthless to rip. It's like you rend reality. You put a slit down so that something in you could just come out. And then here, this is really lifting something up. So just feel it in the top of the head. And then this is just, okay, so just try one more. Up, out, and up, and down. That's great. And then let's just bring it out. Yeah. So if there was real resistance, if there really was a lever that was really difficult to pull up and then really difficult to pull out, what you'd learn quite quickly is that you're more effective if you sort of wriggle. You know, if I do one first and then the other. So if there's this turn going on inside me, then I'll just get more energy into it. The body wants to work in a single weighted way. Yeah? But it's not a turn that comes from just doing our normal Tai Chi turns, which is just moving the hips. It's just, it's really from the deep muscles inside here. So then they're almost wringing out the spine, like wringing out a towel. And they really produce passion. They produce libido. Yeah. Okay. And now let's just squat. So for me, I think this is the most important thing I do now, but most people don't feel it, which is confirmation that I'm doing the right thing. Yeah, so you're just squatting down and just allowing the spine to just become very simple, like the spine of a fetus. It's just a simple curve, almost a circle. It's almost like my tail comes under and just I produce a circle. So the S shape of the spine is not here. That's a thing of standing up. And just feel how, the closeness to the ground, and just feel the effect of the ground. The ground has those qualities that we're trying to bring into the mind, quiet, still, cold. Yeah. And so we'd like just to become open enough so that the ground, the proximity of the ground, can have an effect on my mind, can just quieten my mind and calm my mind. And basically it's like it goes into a deeper rhythm, like a longer rhythm. Yeah. So not the rhythm of thinking. Thinking is like it's almost like the speed of your speech. It's interesting with my son Max, because he's got a really quick, bright mind, and it's just a bit too quick for his mouth, and so he stammers. Yeah, he's got a stutter. So we normally so just feel it. The earth is just feel gravity, this compassionate force that is just saying, just calm down, just relax, just come to me. The mother, earth is the mother with the open arms, just saying, come to mummy, everything will be okay. And then just place the hands down and then just really feel the earth just draining that neurotic, anxious energy out of your heart and your head. I think one of the reasons we're so out of control with the mind, the Tibetans talk about taming the mind, because for them, the average mind is like an an, untamed wild animal. It's just completely out of control. And one of the reasons is because we've brought our front legs, our arms off the ground. The ground can't really earth the upper body anymore unless you touch something like a wall or the ground like this. And then we produce so much tension in our pelvis and our hips that it can't earth the lower body either. So the dantian doesn't get the effect of the ground for most people either. You can just feel it. It's like something sucking at my brain, and it's just flowing down my arms and just becoming quiet relatively. And then just lift the hands, and you just retain an element of that, a quality of that. And just feel it. When you're in this position, you just want, the mind wants to settle in the dantian because it's not being drawn up into the head all the time by excessive mental activity. Okay, let's just try one more. Just the hands on the floor. Ooh. Yeah, so the ground is so supportive that you can just completely relax into it. You don't need to hold on to your own tension in order to anchor yourself. Okay, and now let's just come up. And just let the body just sort of settle back into, but with that, the same feeling. Now just feel the feet like your hands were. So it's very easy to feel how the ground affects the hands because we don't normally have them on the ground, but they're having exactly the same effect on the feet. It's just that, we're so used to the feet being on the ground, we don't really register that quality of the ground just draining my energy down because we're so intent on pushing up so that everyone can see how wonderful we are. So just feel the ground just drawing you down, and just feel how this has to relax. This whole area has to relax. And if it does, then the ground beneath my feet will drain this as well. I don't need my hands on the ground. Yeah, so we have to feel the truth of good posture. Yeah, so what is it that makes my posture good? Yeah. It's just an integration, really, allowing the ground to just drain me. Okay, so normally we don't touch the ground, but I would recommend it. So let's just touch the wall instead. Yeah. So just the same thing. You just want that to register. You just want to become sensitive so that you can feel what's happening. Yeah. Because if you don't feel it, it may as well not be happening. Yeah. So I just bring my hand up and just place it on the wall, and the wall just sucks something out of me. I just feel myself draining of something I don't need. And then the other hand, just and then just feel the line through the body. Yeah? So when I place my hand on the wall, there's a line, like an earthing line, that passes through my body. And you can decide which leg it goes down. So if I just put a tiny bit more weight in my right foot, it will go down there. And if I just move across slightly, it will go down the left. I just want to feel that line. So half of my mind is with my hand and going into the wall. And the other half of my mind is with the other end of the line. It's down in the foot, having traveled along this line of strength that has been produced by the subtle pressure that I'm putting on the wall. Yeah, so I just really want to be aware of the places where I touch the world. So my hands and my feet. Yeah. And you just relax into that. You relax into the line of strength. You allow yourself to become that line that's passing through your body. And just really feel, is my sacrum on the line? Because we generally tend to pull it back. So I just got to let the sacrum all the time just relax forwards and down a bit. And then that line of strength will go through the sacrum. Ooh. And you can sort of do it with other objects. You know, it doesn't have to be a wall. It's easier with the wall. Trees are great. There's a guy that practices when I'm teaching Tai Chi in the park, and he's always got his hand on a tree, and it just looks, you know, he's doing something. But just picking up objects and just feel it, you know, when you pick up like a stone, just how different that feels than when you pick up a piece of plastic. Yeah. We just want to become sensitive to life. Yeah? A stone is living and a piece of plastic is not. So the man-made doesn't live, it's dead. Just think how hard an artist has to work just to bring a bit of life into that painting. So most of the artifacts that we produce, especially nowadays, especially now that they're produced by machines, by people operating machines, they just don't really have a life. This is why on Instagram, all the people that I sort of follow are potters. Yeah? So they're making beautiful pots. And they really do, they just glow with life. Everyone is different. So they have a soul. Yeah, so it's not just us, it's not just living creatures that have souls. Anything that's natural has a soul. It has a spirit that dances within it. And with use, you know, we can invest man-made objects with souls through use. Yeah? So like the workman's tools. You can feel when you pick one up, or like a musical instrument. Yeah? When I used to play the saxophone, I used to play with this friend who was much better than me. And sometimes I'd be having real problems with the horn, and he'd just say, "Oh, give it to me," and I'd give it to him, and he'd just run up and down a few scales on it and give it back to me, and it was a different instrument, yeah? Just because he'd blown his energy through it. Ooh. Yeah, so you're applying pressure just with a turn, really, rather than using the muscles in the arm, using the waist. Just feel it it goes down mainly into the dantian. I mean, it does branch into the leg, but you know, we tend to stop here in Tai Chi. We acknowledge that it's gone down, but this is where, you know, so everything that you do, everything that you touch, everything that you interact with drives you into your dantian. Drives you into your center. Yeah. So let's try one more here. Ooh. Okay, so now let's just try coming back. Yeah. And just let that be there. Yeah. So just imagine that your hand is actually on the wall. And you're just feeling that line flowing through your body. Yeah. So it's not just me bringing energy up into my arms, I'm also channeling something down. And then the legs just have to be able to take that. Yeah. So just imagine like a pan with boiling water in it. You know how turbulent it becomes as the bubbles come up. And not a heavy boil, just a sort of simmer. And then just imagine you sort of really slow it down. So it's like a really viscous liquid. It's like the mud that's got the sort of thermal activity coming through it. Yeah? So that's how it feels. Yeah. So you're standing here, you're this thick, viscous fluid, and there's these bubbles coming up through you and just pop. They just pop as they reach the surface. Yeah. When I was in New Zealand, we went to Rotorua where they have all this sort of thermal activity, and you're driving along and there's all these sort of mud pools bubbling away on the side of the road. And I was a sort of musician at the time, so I was into, recording things. So I got my tape recorder out and went up to this little pool and just put the microphone down so I could record the sounds of the gurgling and the bubbling. And then all of a sudden it just fucking exploded and I got showered with hot mud. There was a sign saying danger, which I'd ignored. Yeah, it's like these two snakes, these two pythons or anaconda. There's a wonderful clip on somewhere of these, someone just traveling along, I think it was in probably sort of South America. And these four anacondas had just reared up out of the forest and they were just twining around each other. It's just amazing. Yeah. That's the feeling here, like from your legs and up either side of the spine. So the spinatus erectus, yeah. Your pythons. So there's these two snakes that are dancing. There's a courtship dance going on inside your own body. If only you'd notice it. And they're sort of twining and rubbing. They're getting off, yeah? They're getting off on each other. They're rubbing, they're becoming aroused, yeah? And it's just got like a long energy, a long rhythm. It's just, that's what we need to get into, like really sort of long rhythms. This is what we've lost. Everything's quick, everything's short term nowadays. So just really feeling that sort of, the rhythms that sort of are deeper really than we are, that really last. Like a tree. Remember that storm in 84? Was it 84? No, it wasn't. It was 87. That blew down loads of trees in England. And you go to Hampstead Heath and there'd be these trees that are blown down, but there'd still be sprouting leaves for years afterwards. So they were still alive. They hadn't realized they were dead. And so they were still sprouting leaves, yeah. So that feeling that, we're just connecting to really deep time, like a geological time, a time that's far deeper than we are. And then if you can resonate with that, then there's real endurance in that. Something in you will last. much longer than your actual lifespan. I mean, you won't know about it. It's not as though you'll have an ego that says, "Hey, look at me." Yeah. But you'll still be working. Yeah. So the Tibetans say, you know, the best work that you do as a meditator are like the 2 or 3 days after you die, when you're no longer inhibited and held back by the physical body. So that's what they're working for. They're working for that moment. Okay, so let's just bring it up. This is exactly the same. You just reduced it. There's still these two snakes swaying together. They're not fighting, they're dancing and producing energy. That dance is producing energy, like the energy of procreation, the energy that can create, can generate. Okay.